गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। We are reading from Canto 5, Chapter 16, verse number 2. तत्रापि प्रियव्रता रथचरण परिखाते सप्तभिः सप्त सिन्धवा उपक्लिप्ता यत एषया सप्तद्वीपा विशेषा विकल्पस्त्वया भगवान् खलु सूचिता एतद् एवाखिलम् अहं मानतो लक्षणतश्च सर्वं विज्ञानास्मि विजिज्ञासामि. Word to word meanings. Tatra api, in that bhumandala, priyavata ratha charana parikhate, by the ditches made by the wheels of chariot used by Priyavat Maharaj, while circumambulating the Sumeru behind the sun, Saptabhi, by the seven, Sapta, seven, Sindhava, oceans, Upakliptaha, created, Yataha, because of which, Etasyaha, of this Bhumandala, Saptadvipa, of the seven islands, Vishesha Vikalpaha, the mode of the construction, Tvaya, by you, Bhagavan, O great saint, Khalu, indeed, Suchitaha, described, Etad, this, Eva, certainly, Akhilam, whole subject, Aham, I, Manataha, from the point of view of measurement, Lakshanataha, and from symptoms, Cha, also, Sarvam, everything, Vijigyasami, wish to know. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. My dear Lord, the rolling wheels of Maharaj Priyavrata's chariot created seven ditches in which the seven oceans came into existence. Because of these seven oceans, Bhumandala is divided into seven islands. You have given a very general description of their measurement, names and characteristics. Now I wish to know of them in detail. Kindly fulfill my desire. We'll read the next purport and translation also. Translation purport. Translation. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His external feature made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, who in his subtler form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. O my Lord, please describe vividly how that form which covers the entire universe is perceived. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit had already been advised by his spiritual master Shukdev Goswami to think of the universal form of the Lord, and therefore, following the advice of his spiritual master, he continuously thought of that form. The universal form is certainly material, but because everything is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately nothing is material. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj's mind was saturated with spiritual consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, Prapanchitkataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunah mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu kathyate. Everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates this verse as follows. Hari sevaya yaha hai anukula vishaya baliya tahara tyage hai bhul. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking in material or enjoyable for the material senses. Even the senses, when purified, are spiritual. When Maharaj Parikshit was thinking of the universal form of the Lord, his mind was certainly situated on the transcendental platform. Although he might not have had any reason to be concerned with the detailed information of the universe, he was thinking of it in relationship with the Supreme Lord. And therefore, such geographical knowledge was not material but transcendental. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Narad Muni has said, Idam hi Vishwam Bhagwan Ivetaraha. The entire universe is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it appears different from him. Therefore, although Parikshit Maharaj had no need for geographical knowledge of this universe, that knowledge was also spiritual and transcendental, because he was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. In our preaching work also, we deal with so much property and money, and so many books bought and sold. But because these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement, they should never be considered material. That one is absorbed in thoughts of such management does not mean that he is outside of Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regulative principles of chanting 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness movement are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Dhananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhishya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatam ham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for joining this Bhagavatam class. So today we are discussing from the 5th canto, chapter number 16th. So here we know the discussion that was going on between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami, and he was speaking about the qualities or descendants of Priyavat Maharaj. And in the previous chapter he was speaking about Maharaj Gaya, who was a very great devotee of the Lord. He was a king of that area. He was a very opulent person in terms of materialistic possessions, but at the same time he was a very great devotee of the Lord. And then further other descendants of Maharaj Priyavata were also described. Now here in this chapter, something Parikshit Maharaj is asking regarding the descriptions of the different planetary systems or different universe description that was there. Like here in the summary it's given that Shukdev Goswami also described the Meru mountain and the planetary system known as Bhumandala. So while he was describing the characteristics of Maharaj Priyavata and his descendants, he also started describing something about the Bhumandala. And here these descriptions are given. Like in the verse we read, it's given that how Bhumandala came into existence, or how the 7 oceans came into existence. When Maharaj Priyavata went on his chariot and he created those 7 ditches. That is how those 7 oceans came into existence, and that is how the 7 islands came into existence. Now when we are talking of Bhumandala, this is different, or this should not be confused with the oceans we have on our earth, which we talk about the 7 oceans. So that is different, because this Bhumandala is the complete mandala that is there, complete area that is there. Out of it there is one Dvipa, that is the Jambu Dvip. And inside that Jambu Dvip we have Bharatvarsha. So Bharatvarsha, or what we call as this tract of land, is different from this description that is there. And when we read further in this chapter, multiple descriptions, many amazing descriptions are given of this area. So this Bhumandala also, it's called as, it's a kind of compared to the Swarga, or the pleasures in this, or the descriptions that are given, that is also compared to the heavenly planetary system. Like now, we know one of the heavenly planets is in the upper planetary system, the Swarga that is there. Then even in Bhumandala there is called as, there is a Swarga that is there, or there are very much opulences that are there in areas of the areas of Bhumandala. And then we know even in the lower planetary systems also there is Bilva Swarga, or there also many amazing facilities for material sense gratification are there. So in this Bhumandala, apart from the Jambu Deep, or apart from this area Bharatvarsha, which is called as the Tapo Bhumi, or the Bhumi of austerities, where a person can practice perfect his life, all other areas are also full of sense gratification, where people can go, those who have done lots of pious credits, they go to those areas and they enjoy nice sense gratification there. And the future descriptions are also there, like all these oceans, some are oceans of milk, some are oceans of honey, some are oceans of curd, some are oceans of liquor also. Means so many different descriptions are given about this different Bhumandala that is there. So now first thing, whenever we read such sequence, whenever we read about the description of the planetary systems, or description about different areas that is given, or whenever we read these words of the scriptures, here Prabhupada also makes it clear, but this point has to be understood, that what is the need of reading all this? Or why was, as in the purport Prabhupada was explaining, why was Parikshit Maharaj interested in hearing all these things? Because Parikshit Maharaj is a great devotee of the Lord, and in the beginning of the Bhagavatam only he asked that what is the best thing for humanity, or what should a person do at the time of death. And there the answer was given that he should do the Kirtan of Hari, or he should sing about the glories of Hari. And that's how Shukdev Goswami starts speaking the Bhagavatam. And we spoke this multiple times, that Bhagavatam is the description of the glories of the Supreme Lord, or it's all about pure devotional service. But then here we see a different description altogether. The description of the universal form of the Lord is given, description of different mandalas is given. So why this description is given, that is also made clear, or Prabhupada makes it quite clear in his purport, that anything that is related to the Lord, or the shloka that is given is Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. We are detached with everything, but at the same time we take those things which are helpful for remembering the Lord, or which are helpful, which are connected with the Lord. Same way, even this universal form helps different categories of people to remember the Supreme Lord. So even that becomes important. And that is why this description is given. Another important point to understand, whenever such descriptions is given, the point of faith also comes into picture. Because sometimes people might read the scriptures and people read all these descriptions. It happens that that thought comes that maybe this is all over exaggeration. How is it possible that there can be an ocean of milk, there can be an ocean of all these things? Here we are struggling to get little milk, and they are talking about there is an ocean of honey, there is an ocean of milk. So naturally the faith comes into picture, or naturally how much faith we have, that is tested. And it becomes sometimes very, very difficult for people to accept. And I recently only when I was distributing books, I met such person who was there, who was saying that he had read the Gita, his parents it seems are devotees, everyone is connected to ISKCON. And he was speaking about science. That how do you match all these things? Science says completely different, Gita says something and something XYZ. How do I have faith in all these things? And it's a question of blind faith only, just like you are, because we believe in science and that has some authorities, here there is no authority. But then I was convincing him about the same point, that just like science we have some authority. Science also we accept because there is some person who has done some discovery, did given some evidences, and so we accept that fact. Same way, all these descriptions also come from an authority. The descriptions of the Bhumandala that is being given, the description of the different planetary systems, that is also been given by a personality who has seen all these things. And just by following those authorities, we can also follow in those footsteps. But naturally, in the beginning, faith is needed. If in the beginning everyone asks that I want to see everything, then only I'll have faith, that is not possible. Anything, even in the material realm, you want to do something, you need to have some faith. Same way, in the spiritual realm also, if you want to do some, or if you want to rise in spirituality, initial thing that is needed is faith. Only if we have that sufficient faith, then we can make advancement in spiritual life. Otherwise, if we keep on asking on the scientific angle, because we had so much discussion, but ultimately he was not convinced. Because his point was that it's not proved by science, how can I accept? So ultimately, if we don't put in that required faith, or if we don't have that faith, we'll just keep on revolving around that scientific angle, then we cannot reach to any conclusion. So all such descriptions are very necessary for us to develop that faith that all these things are given and they are 100% true. They are not some fairy tales that are given, that these are some fairy tales or some stories that are there. They are there, these oceans of milk, there are ocean of liquor, ocean of salt water, whatever it is. That all exists, whatever is given in the scriptures, and that all is existing in different parts of the Bhumandala itself. And this faith is very, very necessary to make some advancement in Krishna consciousness. So now when it comes to the next verse, the one we discussed today, so it talks about that how a person fixing his mind on the universal form of the Lord. So here it's mentioned that the Supreme Personality of his Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his external feature, made of material modes of nature, that is, they are talking about the gross universal form. But even if a person meditates on his gross universal form, that person comes to pure goodness. Even when a person, so the jnanis who are there who are not able to meditate on the personal form of the Lord and all these things, but they are too much attracted to this gross universal form. So here it's mentioned that even if a person meditates on the different aspects of the universal system, thinking that they are part of the Lord, because everything is an energy of the Lord, and they meditate on different parts of the universe, thinking that they are connected to the Lord, then they will also get purified. Or they will also be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why Parikshit Maharaj here is asking about the universal form of the Lord. So now here multiple things are given. One of the commentary which Prabhupada has given, where he has mentioned that Parikshit Maharaj was also meditating on the universal form of the Lord, or thinking of the universal form of the Lord, and his mind was certainly situated on the transcendental platform. Another of the acharyas, he gives a different perspective to it. He says that Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was already meditating on the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, and he had no need to know about this universal form, or he personally had no desire for this universal form. But just to benefit others who might in the future ask for this universal form, or who might want to meditate on this universal form, for the benefit of others, he asked these questions, and that's why he asked this all to describe about the universal form of the Lord to Shukdev Goswami. This is the perspective of one Acharya. He says that Parikshit Maharaj was personally not interested in this form because he was meditating on the personal form of the Lord. But for the other people in general, the jnanis who are there who want to meditate on these aspects, he was asking to clarify this thing. So here that then it's mentioned that everything that is material which is also connected with the Supreme Lord. Therefore everything should be engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates this verse as follows. Hari sevaye yaha hai anukula vishaya baliya tahara tyage haya bhul. Basically what he says is that something which can be used in the service of the Supreme Lord. Something which is favorable, something which is connected to the Supreme Lord, and we just give it up. No, this is Maya, or this is not good. Then that is a mistake. Then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is clearly stating that this is not correct, or this is a mistake we are doing. Because we are not just renouncers, or we are not just people who just dryly renounce everything. That is the characteristic of Jnanis. We are bhaktas or we are devotees, we try to see how this thing can be used in the service of the Lord. Of course, under the guidance of superior authorities. And today is also the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada. So we can see from his life also that how in many instances he himself showed that how everything that is there that can be used in the service of the Lord. How even though many of his god brothers criticized him different ways, said different things about him, but his mood was pretty clear that whatever there is, that is the energy of the Supreme Lord, and there is a way everything can be used in the Supreme Lord, in the service of the Supreme Lord. So right from the time we know how in the beginning of the movement, how he began this movement, to starting dictating when he started translating the books using the dictaphones, using different accessories, microphones, and so many different electronic items, using everything just for the service of the Supreme Lord. And he personally, by his example, showed that how everything has a connection with the Supreme Lord and can be used in his service. Once it happened, I don't remember the place, it was France or one place, where one of his disciples, one of his very prominent disciples, rich disciples, who was there, so they were bargaining for a place. And that place that was there, that was a very beautiful place that was there. They were trying to purchase that place. That was a beautiful mansion that was there, amazing house, amazing build. And ISKCON was trying to take over that place or purchase that place. Now this disciple of Prabhupada who was there, he said, Prabhupada, this is Maya. This such a luxurious place, such a nice place, this is not meant for devotees, this is not correct. Prabhupada said, this is not Maya. If it is used in Krishna's service, if devotees do Sankirtan and use it in Krishna's service for preaching and spreading the mission, that same thing becomes spiritualized, and that is no longer under the control of the material energy of the Lord. This is one example. Like this, we have many examples where Prabhupada by his personal conduct and personal example showed that how different things can actually be used in the correct way, and they need not remain, or we need not renounce those things. As sometimes the tendency is there of whenever someone is new in devotional service to renounce things. So one of the pastimes that happened in Mayapur also. So Mayapur, when Prabhupada had wanted initially, he used to live in those huts, the houses that were built, the roof thatched huts and all those things, because not much construction was there. But even at that time, Prabhupada said that we can happily live here, because these huts represent mode of goodness. The cities that are there, they represent mode of passion, and the different places like the brothels and all those places, they represent mode of ignorance. And this village life, this rural life, it represents mode of goodness. So it's very nice place for cultivating, practicing devotional service. We can live inside those huts, we can practice devotional service. But then if we do all this, who will come to listen to us? Or even if we sit under a tree and discuss Bhagavatam, who will be interested to come? And that was the reason he focused on building all those temples, building the amazing TOVP and all those master plan. He was the one who gave the idea for everything, Prabhupada. So that to construct Mayapur in such a place that people from all around the world come there. And if we do that, and I was hearing in a conversation, he was telling that will please all the acharyas. Especially it was Bhakti Vinod Thakur who had envisioned this in one point of time, that one day here all people from all across the world, from Germany, from Australia, from different parts of the world, people will come to this place Mayapur and they will chant Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari. That was his dream, that was his desire which Bhakti Vinod Thakur had penned down. And Prabhupada, in order to fulfill that desire, did all that, did so much effort to what we have in Mayapur, so that now we see the effect of people coming from all over the world just to visit this place. And when the acharyas are pleased by the efforts, naturally devotees will get mercy and they will advance in devotional service. So this is how he showed in many times that how everything can be used in the service of the Lord. Or how everything can be used, everything has a way to be used in the service, of course, but this always has to be done under guidance. Then future, in the further it said, in our preaching work also we deal with so much property and money and so many books bought and sold. But because these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement, they should never be considered material. That one is which one is observed in thoughts of such management does not mean that he is outside of Krishna consciousness. And here Prabhupada mentions a very important point. If one rigidly observes the regulative principles of chanting 16 rounds of Mahamantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness movement are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So here Prabhupada focused on 2 points. One, he speaks about using things in the service of the Lord, or how everything that is there, even in Krishna consciousness, how so much property, so much money, so much books being sold, but everything was being used in the proper perspective. At the same time, he was also speaking, he is also focusing on another thing, that is rigidly or strictly following the rules and regulations. That thing is also very, very important. So in one of the conversations I was hearing Prabhupada was having with his senior disciples in the last days. So this was in the last time when Prabhupada was about to pass away, and some reports were being given to him. So Prabhupada left this world, disappeared from this world on November 14th, 1977. So according to Tithi, that Tithi is today. So now in the last conversation, this conversation was happening in somewhere around October, where one sannyasi, senior disciple of Prabhupada, he had come from Mayapur, he had been giving different reports of Mayapur, that this is going on in Mayapur, we are constructing this building, so many books were distributed, and different aspects. And there Prabhupada made a very, very important statement. Prabhupada said that don't focus too much on collecting. So that time they were collecting funds, they were stretching a lot for collecting funds, and many things were happening in Mayapur. So Prabhupada says don't stretch too much for collecting. Because he was very old, he used to speak few words, but those few words made a very important significance. He said, otherwise your spiritual life will get affected. So point he was trying to make is that how everything, definitely preaching is necessary or spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, but at the same time he was warning that don't overdo it or don't overstretch, otherwise your spiritual life will be affected. So this is how in multiple conversations I noticed this thing, that Prabhupada also was careful in these things. When he used to engage these devotees in service, then how to save their spiritual progress or how to keep them spiritually nourished also. Of course, in the past he knew there were times when marathon was also happened, like we know when the printing of Chaitanya Charitamrita was happening. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada said that in 3 months I want, or 3 or 2 months, I want the entire books to be printed, or entire 17 volumes to be published. Again, which was a very, very humongous task to be done. Because these disciples, they were not conversant in Bengali, they hardly had any knowledge of Sanskrit and Bengali, and Prabhupada wanted the Chaitanya Charitamrita with word-to-word meanings, everything should be published in just 2 months. So that time Prabhupada wanted, and Prabhupada said that you do marathon, morning, day and night, you should be engaged in service, and 24 hours devotees were working on shifts. So in the time, in the initial days, it was there when the movement had to be spread, when the books were needed, when property was needed, temples were needed. Prabhupada made devotees stretch. He knew and he made devotees stretch just to get all those infrastructure. Even in Mayapur in the initial days when the building had to be constructed, in initial construction had to happen, there also Prabhupada gave very, very strict deadlines. He told that in 3 months this place should be constructed, or the initial building, the lotus building of whichever the initial one was there, that should be constructed in 3 months. And there also I was hearing there was a huge marathon that was going on, again 24-hour shifts. Entire day there used to be more than 600 laborers who will be working very, very hard throughout the day, and someone is doing something, other person is doing something. Sometimes someone will construct something which is not needed also. But like that, so many constructions, so many laborers working together just for the marathon to get that thing in place. And that time one thing funny I was hearing from my spiritual master, that he was telling that we were working so hard, devotees were working so hard, and if someone was missing from there, let's say someone is not present, and devotees used to ask with each other that where that person is or where is that devotee, and then someone will tell, oh, he's attending the Mangal Aarti. And everyone will be furious like anything. What Mangal Aarti? Why is he missing from? As if he has done some crime to attend the Mangal Aarti. So the point was, in those times when the need was there, when the initial time was there, and my spiritual master also says that when the desire of the spiritual master was there, he had ordered this. then it was okay to stretch or do all those things. But with time, when things were stabilizing, we can see this change in Prabhupada's mood also, that he also wanted that one should focus on his spiritual life also. If he continuously keeps on stretching more and more, doing things more and more, but he doesn't do all these things of basic things of chanting 16 rounds, following the rigid rules and regulations, doing his own Shravanam and Kirtanam, then with time the spiritual life will get affected. With time the spiritual life will get affected. This was one of the things that was mentioned. And as we see the famous shloka of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, Bharat bhumite haila manushya janma yar, janma sarthak kari karo paropkar. So there also we see a similar thing is being mentioned, where he talks about that how if someone is born in this Bharatvarsha, in this land of India, or in this Bharatvarsha which is called as the Tapobhumi, then definitely he should work, or definitely he should aspire for perfection of life. Because this is a rare opportunity he has got, and he should definitely aspire for perfection of the life. But here he mentioned this warning that Janma Sarthak Kari Karo Parapkar. That before aspiring for perfection, or before doing paropkar for others, that person should also try to do his own Janma Sarthak, or try to advance himself. Try to practice the rules and regulations himself. So this point is very, very clear, that whenever it comes to, or whenever here also in Purport Prabhupada is saying, when a person is following all the rules and regulations rigidly, he is chanting the 16 rounds rigidly, then whatever he is doing, then be it the devotee engaged in management activities, be the devotee engaged in different activities with the material world, which will seemingly be completely material activities, but still they are non-different, or still that will be considered Krishna consciousness. Only if the person's consciousness is proper, or person is strictly following the rules and regulations. And same thing when it comes to doing paropkar, or doing preaching, or going out and preaching to others, it becomes very, very important that one should also be following the things in a proper way. When a person overstretches himself and just preaches more, focuses more and more on preaching, but when it comes to his own devotional service, that is going down, then it becomes a difficulty, or then it's no longer doing paropkar, because we ourselves are not purified. What can we do? How can we help others? So that's why this point that is mentioned, that one is absorbed in thoughts of such management, does not mean he is outside of Krishna consciousness if he is rigidly following the rules and regulations. So if a person strictly follows the rules and regulations, strictly follows all this practice, and then he is continuously engaged in preaching the names of the Lord, then, or he is continuously engaged in some services which are not directly even connected to Krishna consciousness, some management activities, some other activities, but they are assisting in Krishna consciousness, even that activity is considered devotional service. So this way it's given that all these activities have to be done in a very, very rigid way. Another shloka which talks about, where Mahaprabhu speaks about this, one of the famous shlokas, he speaks about the Bharat Bhumite Manushya Janma Yoya Yar, that a person born in this land of Bharatvarsha, he should try to perfect his life and then preach this message to others. And then he says one more thing, he says a very, very important shloka, he says, Etava Janma Safalyam Dehinam Iha Dehishu Praner Arther Dhiya Vacha Shreya Acharanam Sada. Here he says the reason or the key for making the perfection of life, that how can one perfect his life. Any person who is embodied, or any person who has a human body, there is just one key to perfect his life, that is Praner Arther Dhiya Vacha Shreya Acharanam Sada. By his pran, by his life, by his artha, that is by his wealth, by his diha, that is intelligence, and by his vacha, that is words. A person who has to engage all these things for the welfare of others. Shreya Acharanam Sada. Shreya Acharanam means for the ultimate benefit of all living beings. So a person who engages his life, his activity, his intelligence, his words in ultimate benefit of all human beings, that person can perfect his life, or that person can achieve the perfection of life. And that is the teachings of Mahaprabhu. He is always saying that by engaging all our intelligence, all our different activities in the service of the Lord, in the performing these welfare activities, then we can attain the highest perfection of life. And further he says that by his work, thought, words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living beings in this life and the next. So here again and again in this verse, Mahaprabhu speaks about these teachings to Rupa Goswami, and he is focusing on the preaching aspect. That how a person, by every activity he performs, by his work, by his thoughts, every activity he should perform in such a way that should be beneficial for all living entities. So when it comes to preaching, this is also a very important lesson. We can understand that it's not just about speaking what we speak, but also about our actions, also about our thoughts, how we do different activities that can also be beneficial to other living entities. If those are done in a proper way, and those thoughts will only be proper when we are rigidly following the rules and regulations. When we are practicing, when we are deep in our own consciousness, only then by our activities, by our different thoughts, different words, we can be of benefit to others. So this is how we see that Prabhupada connects everything. Prabhupada throughout his life and different endeavors, different things he did in his life, and how he connected everything. He knew the art of connecting everything to the Supreme Lord, or he knew the art of using everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. And that is the reason he was able to preach successfully in the West, because he knew everything, he knew the correct art of using everything and how it can be used for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay, with this I would like to end here. Any questions, comment we can take.
Thank you for this nice lesson. This universal form of the Lord is material. What it means? Gross
Means it's not the eternal form. So one is, we say Lord's form is always eternal. So in this form, because material in the sense gross, it's also transcendental form, but because it's a form of matter, is a form made of matter, it will be matter will be unmanifested after some time. So in that way it is material, because it's not an eternal form of the Lord. Like the spiritual form, we all know in the spiritual world is an eternal form, but this form is subject to destruction. But still it's a transcendental form because it's a form of the Lord. That.
So this Bhumandal, they are speaking about the universal form?
The different parts of the Bhumandala, they'll connect in the future verses, they'll connect that this is the part of the face of the Lord, or different parts of the Lord, like that. Universal form of the Lord. Yeah. Okay, we can share one points and then we'll end.
Hare Krishna, thank you for this wonderful things. Many points are there. One of the point is that if we stress too much in service or in our material dealings, and we don't focus on our spiritual sadhana, our chanting, fixing around, in maintaining purity, shravanam, kirtan, and if we don't do that, then our spiritual life will get affected. By spiritual life will get affected. Once spiritual life gets affected, then we'll feel we don't feel enthusiastic, and we slowly will find faults in others, and will become envious of others, and slowly will leave the possession of faith. It's very important that we have to balance both the things.
Thank you for that. Prabhuji, you said that initially we have to put faith in the scriptures. So that's why. So this is the thing that we grow in the spiritual things, because we have to follow the authority. They have seen the truth, so we have to follow the scriptures. And you mentioned that everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord, and this should be done with proper guidance.
Thank you so much. You mentioned that one person use their will, words, intelligence by helping this Krishna consciousness. It is his perfection of his life. And who was born in this Bhartavarsha, that is also perfection of life and he will and that same will as well he will preach the message to the
ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।